Hi guys and welcome back to the Mighty Blues. My name is of course Cameron and welcome back today to another live stream. It is the live game review at Crystal Palace 4, Everton 0 in the FA Cup quarter-final last Sunday. I apologise that this review is a couple of days late as to what it usually is. Couple of reasons for it really. I've been quite busy over the last 2 or 3 days with various different things going on in life, including work, and I just haven't really been able to muster up the motivation to sit down and talk about what was another absolutely dreadful performance. I said it on Sunday in the instant match reaction. I sat down and I said I'm starting to just become numb to this now. These performances, these results, these games are just they're coming and going at the moment for me, and it almost just seems like, as I said on Sunday, watching another episode of a really shit television program where you just sort of watch an episode, you come out disappointed, but in reality you're not that arsed and you're just numb to the feeling because you've seen it so many times before. And I still kind of do feel numb about it, but as the days have gone on, Monday, Tuesday, and now obviously today being Wednesday, it has sort of festered a little bit, and it's frustrated me a lot more because, again, we can't stop thinking about this football club, can we? Whether we like it or not, and whether we sit here and say we're done, or whether we sit here and say, we're numb to it, or we're not letting it affect us anymore. I can guarantee that 99% of Evertonians still woke up on Monday morning for work, and the first thing that they could think about was, that performance on Sunday, and woke up yesterday for work, and that's all they can think about. And today, thinking about it as well. And the reason being is because, again, it was such a disgraceful, pathetic excuse of a performance by those gutless shithouses that call themselves professional footballers once again. And we all sat here and we all got excited after Thursday against Newcastle, and I had some people saying to me, don't get too excited, Cam, don't get too excited, because you know that he can let you down. And I knew that he could let me down, and I knew deep down in my heart that would probably get battered by Crystal Palace, A, because it was away from home, B, because they're a better side than Everton, and C, because this Everton team can't seem to string 2 decent performances together in a row. Forget 2 decent results, just 2 decent performances together in a row. So I knew deep down that I was likely to be disappointed come Sunday, but a part of me, when we sat here and we done the preview for the Palace game and post sort of Thursday, Friday and Saturday, a part of me just thought, come on, please just prove us wrong, Everton. Go out there on Sunday, and regardless of the results, regardless of, the decisions the referee may make or performances of individual players, just go out there and just make us proud. Just go out there and put a performance in that we can all sit there and go, do you know what? That was absolutely brilliant. That we might have lost the game or we mightn't have got through, but the players were absolutely fantastic today. They gave everything, they worked hard, they battled, they showed their desire, they showed their commitment. But once again, we can't sit down and have that conversation. And once again, we're sitting down and having another conversation about another away game in which Everton have turned up, done relatively well for the opening 10-15 minutes, and then absolutely shit themselves. I mean, we lost our last away game 5-0 against Spurs. I was at the Spurs game. I was down at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, or the new White Hart Lane, whatever it's called. And I remember it quite vividly because it was a long day, and I remember, exactly how the game panned out, the result, the performance, etc. And Sunday's performance against Crystal Palace was not too dissimilar. We started well against Spurs. We were controlling the game in the opening 10-15 minutes. I think we were a bit better in the opening 10-15 against Palace than we were against Spurs, but we weren't really creating much. We just looked threatening, we looked promising, we looked strong. We then give away a stupid goal. We did it against Spurs. Harry Kane, getting the wrong side of Michael Keane, and Michael Keane lashing it into the top corner of his own goal. We give away a silly goal on Sunday against Crystal Palace. Again, a corner comes in and it's headed into the back of the net. Carbon copy of Connor Cody's goal at Goodison Park a couple of weeks ago, other than this one coming from a set piece and Connor Cody's just coming from a normal cross. Everything else was a carbon copy, rose above the defender and headed it into the back of the net. And then as soon as that first goal went in, we fell to pieces, exactly like we did against Tottenham and exactly like we did, on Sunday. And this isn't a coincidence. This isn't just 2 games that have panned out in a similar fashion. This is pretty much every single time we go away from home, isn't it? Let's be honest. We have a good start, 10-15 minutes, something goes wrong and the players spit the dummy. They either stop doing what they're being told or their heads just drop that far, and they just can't be asked to pick themselves back up and to go again. And to give it some perspective in this one, this was a week's quarter-final of the FA Cup, this was an opportunity for us to get to Wembley. But as I said on Friday, it was never really about getting... Well, it was about getting to Wembley because it's quarter-final and you want to win and you want to get into the next round, etc., etc. But for me, I think arguably more importantly than actually winning the tie and getting to Wembley was the performance that we put in and how we could take a positive performance and utilise it regardless of the result to give us a better chance of staying in the Premier League, i.e., we could have lost on Sunday, but put a brilliant performance in. The players could have worked hard. There could have been desire. There could have been commitment. There could have been passion. There could have been energy. All of that sort of stuff. And we could have come away from it and gone, do you know what? We've lost, but we've got a couple of weeks now. That was a good performance. 2 good performances on the run. Let's go and, work hard in this international break and go away to West Ham and get something. But again, as we said on Thursday's result means absolutely nothing unless we use it as a catalyst to bounce back. And put a decent run, together. And okay, Sunday's game against Palace was in the FA Cup. It wasn't in the league. It doesn't affect the league table. I understand that. But any confidence or momentum or any sort of positive feeling that will have been gained by Thursday's result against Newcastle will have just been smashed out the park with Sunday's result. And if you're asking me now, are you confident that Everton can turn up at West Ham in a couple of weeks and get a result? I think if it's under 4-0 against West Ham, we'll be lucky. And that's not me being negative. That's not me being pessimistic. That's not me just saying that so people can get a reaction or go, oh, what are you saying that for, this, that and the other? That's because we've proven time and time again this season that away from home, we're an absolute disgrace. The players are shithouses. They're weak. They haven't got the determination or the energy to get themselves up, to fight, to battle. Yes, Frank Lampard made some mistakes. I will admit that. I think again changing the formation, again changing the personnel. I think having Anthony Gordon left wing back for the last 25 minutes was a bit baffling. But the reality is, I said it a couple of weeks ago and I'll say it again. I don't think Frank Lampard can put any Everton team out there that wouldn't let him down. And by that, what I mean is it doesn't really matter the formation in which he sets out with. It doesn't really matter the players in which he puts on the pitch. They're the same group of players. They're the same group of shithouses that have let manager after manager after manager down, that have let us fans down year in, year out. These players have worked under one of the best managers ever to have graced football in Carlo Ancelotti, and they let him down with shithouse performances. They've worked under... a manager that we don't particularly like in Rafa Benitez, but somebody who's widely known as a great tactician, maybe not now, but certainly in his day, and yet they still put in shithouse performances. We blame Rafa Benitez. They've worked under a new up-and-coming manager with, something a little bit different in Marco Silva, who coincidentally is now winning every championship game 18-0. They put in shithouse performances. They've worked under Frank Lampard, a winner, a Serie winner, Champions League winner, multi-time Premier League winner as a player, new manager. They're putting shithouse performances in. Ronald Koeman, shithouse performances in. A lot of these players have been here through 4, 5, 6 different managers, different styles, new managers that have been around, managers that have won Champions Leagues, managers that have won Premier Leagues, and yet the one constant, the one consistent, the one sort of common denominator is the players putting in shithouse performances week in, week out. And there's deeper issues at this football club, of course. There is. The ownership is a massive issue, and it's the owner's fault as to why he signed off of these players for silly money, and he brought managers in that didn't really work. And I'm not saying that any of those managers were faultless, by the way. Obviously, a large part of the managers I've just mentioned had their faults and deserved to be sacked when they were sacked, if not earlier. And a couple of them should never have been employed by Everton Football Club in the first place. But... And as I said, I'm not by any stretch of the imagination saying they're faultless, but what I'm saying is there was certainly games in every one of these managers' reigns where the players down tools, where the players give in, where the players just thought, do you know what, I can't be arsed today. And it sickens me to think that Frank Lampard has been here for a couple of months, a month and a half, 2 months maybe. Obviously, he was only announced on deadline day, so 31st of January, so yeah, a month and a half, 2 months. And yet they seem like they're willing to put those types of performances in under Frank Lampard as well, which just shows what the common denominator is. And as I said, Frank Lampard can set them up in whichever way he wants. He can set them up tactically whichever way he wants. He can put however many subs on. He can change the personnel. He can do whatever. But if those 11 players are on that pitch aren't willing to give 150%, then what's the point? what's the point? Because it doesn't matter whether it's Pep Guardiola setting them up, whether it's Frank Lampard, whether it's Jurgen Klopp, or whether it's me, Nan, setting them up. If the players aren't willing to go out there and give everything, even if they're not happy with the formation, or they're not happy with the style, or they're not happy with the system, if they're not willing to go out and give absolutely everything, then what's the manager meant to do? And who's the common denominator in that situation? If the players aren't willing to go out and give absolutely everything, it's the players. The players are a fucking disgrace, an absolute disgrace. And do you know what's kept me sort of level-headed over the last couple of days or so, and kept me thinking relatively positively? Not really about Everton, because I'm not going to lie to you, since Sunday, I haven't really thought about Everton. Every time I've thought about doing this review, I've put it off because I've thought I don't really want to sit there and talk about Everton. Every time I've gone on Twitter, I'm barely on it, because you'll have seen our Twitter at the moment is very much retweeting, and any news that comes out, we'll put that out there. But I'm spending less and less time on it because I don't want to, I don't really want to think too much about Everton. But one thing that sort of kept me smiling over the last couple of days is, I'm sure you will have all watched on Saturday night, Meatball Molly and her ferocious, spectacular victory in a UFC bout. If you're into the UFC, and I know not a lot of people are, and I know a lot of people aren't, then you mightn't have seen it. If you are into the UFC, you'll have seen it was a naughty spinning back elbow that knocked their opponent out, and you've seen how much that meant to her and how much that win meant to her, and she's straight over with the Everton scarf, and she's got the Everton scarf before the fight, and you can see the dedication and the desire and the commitment that Meatball Molly puts into camps and fights in order to get the very, very best result. You can see when she's in there, even when she's getting punched in the face, even when she's getting taken down, she isn't giving up. She's getting up, she's fighting, she's showing that desire, she's showing that mentality of, I'm not giving up here. The only way I'm getting taken down is if I physically can't stand back up, or I physically can't get back up. I'm not letting myself stay down. And in doing that and having that mentality, she's winning these fights that are putting it on this global stage, and it's everything that she deserves, Molly, because she's a lovely girl and she works her absolute arse off. And you look at somebody like Molly, who is an Evertonian and who loves Everton Football Club as much as the rest of us do. She mentioned Everton in her post-fight press conference when she was given the camera at the end of the fight. The first thing that come to her mind was up the fucking toffees. She's one of us. She loves Everton Football Club. She loves it as much as we do. She was dying to get a ticket for Palace. I don't know if she did. She's at the games at Goodison. She goes away from home on hands tours. She loves Everton. And you look at somebody like Molly, who is an elite sportsman, an elite athlete, and how much she puts in and how much desire she puts into her craft and her work at becoming the best, and when she's in there, how dedicated she is to not giving up and trying her hardest. And I watched an interview today with Molly, and I can say this because it's public knowledge, and she was asked basically about how much did she get paid for the fight, and Paddy the Baddy was on there, etc, etc, and she said that she got 40 and 40, which is, for anybody that isn't familiar with the UFC, 40 and 40 is 40 to fight, to turn up basically, and 40 to win bonus, and then obviously she got a 50k bonus. So she took home around $130,000. When you transfer it, it's about 90 odd thousand pounds, and then you're half it because of the tax. And that might seem a lot of money, but before tax, for that fight to show what she showed, Molly received around about 90 odd thousand pounds. Bearing in mind that 2 of those payments were because she won, and because she performed so well that Dana White gave her a bonus as well. £90,000 is probably the average of what most of these players get paid per week. I can tell you now, Andre Gomez will be earning more than that. Michael Keaton's probably earning more than that, bearing in mind he got a new contract recently. Mason Holgate won't be earning much less than that. Seamus Coleman will be earning more than that. Abdoulaye Doucouré will be earning more than that. And that's weekly. These absolute frauds and shit-asses are getting that weekly. Molly gets that to turn up and do what she done, which is absolutely unbelievable. These players are getting that weekly to turn up and after 20 minutes go, yeah, I can't be arsed. I can't be arsed doing this anymore. I'm just going to ride it out. And again, it's a disgrace. It's a disgrace, and the reason I bring up Molly is because she's somebody who knows what it means to be an Evertonian. She's somebody who knows what this football club means. She has to speak to the players to Everton. Whether or not she's going to be allowed to do that, I don't know. But she knows what it means to support this football club. But not only that, whether Molly was an Evertonian or not, she's an elite sportsman who dedicates all her time to her craft and being the best she can be, and earns in one fight, which is, bearing in mind, it's been, 6 months since she last fought, what these Everton players earn in a week, and they don't give even an ounce of the commitment and the passion and the desire that Molly gives to her craft. And you just look at them and you just think, and that's what was getting me through Sunday, because I just kept thinking, take me back to Saturday night when that spinning elbow landed, and I was absolutely over the moon for Molly, absolutely over the moon. And you think, can Everton go and make it a better week? Can the players look at that and think, do you know what, we need to implement that, even if the going gets tough, even if we go down a goal, even if things go against us, we get back up and we fight. But they don't. They go a goal down through another corner, which is bread and butter in it, really. Everton to concede in a corner. In fact, if you could bet on it, it'd probably be about a 1 to 100 odds for Everton to concede a corner in a game, because we're just shite at defending them. We go a second goal down to what is a silly goal. And Frank Lampard spoke about the goals, and I've seen a lot of Palace fans being a bit annoyed at the way in which Frank Lampard described the goals. And I understand the frustration, and some Palace fans are saying, oh, it's bitter, this, that, and the other. I get it, because I think he says we conceded a set piece, then we conceded a bad goal, then we conceded another bad goal, then we conceded a fluky goal, something like that. But I actually understand where Frank Lampard's coming from, because whilst Palace fans will think those goals are brilliant and they're amazing and they're the best goals ever, which is understandable, and Crystal Palace were brilliant the other day, and Crystal Palace showed that they are a much better football team than Everton. They're a much better ran football club than Everton. They've done their business fantastically in the summer, bringing in the likes of Conor Gallagher, Elise, who's a fantastic player as well. They brought in a manager that they stuck with even when times were hard at the start of the season. They're a fantastic ran football club, and I've got no problem with them. But what Frank Lampard was saying was effectively too, we give away a corner, which is, as I said, the amount of set pieces we concede is disgraceful. We gave away the second goal, which looks great from a Palace point of view, but when you actually watch it from an Everton point of view, it's a disgraceful goal to concede. If you conceded it in a Sunday League game, you'd be fucking furious. The third goal is fluky, but again, nobody sacks the runner. Nobody decides to sack Zaha. Nobody decides to look at Zaha and think, oh, he's standing there in the box on his own. Maybe I'll go over to him in case the ball drops to him. And the fourth goal for me is the most frustrating of them all, because it's effectively a carbon copy of the third goal, other than instead of it coming off the post, Jordan Pickford saved this shot this time. And again, in the same way as where the third goal, Zaha was standing on his own, ready to put the rebound in. Will Hughes is standing on his own, ready to put the rebound in. So these fucking idiot thick defenders hadn't even thought, do you know what? 5 minutes ago, they scored from this exact same situation, so I'll probably go and mark that Will Hughes and make sure he doesn't get on the rebound. They don't. They stand around and they watch. They absolutely watch. It's just, again, as I said, I'm getting to the point now where I'm just thinking, if you're not caring, then why should we care? And it's hard because, if that was the case, then, Everton would have no fans, because we'd all just walk away if it was as easy as that. And I certainly wouldn't have just paid, over £100 to go to West Ham in a couple of weeks to watch them if that was the case, knowing full well that we won't get anything out of that West Ham game. I'm not asked if people say you're negative, not asked if people say you're pessimistic. We won't get anything out of that game against West Ham. Nothing. So, again, for me, it's just heartbreaking, isn't it? When you see how, and we can sit here all we like and say, oh yeah, but it was a cup game, so it wasn't that important. But it was, wasn't it? It was, because like I said on Friday, imagine what a win against Newcastle in the way in which we did, and a cup win to get us into Wembley for a semi-final. Imagine that what that could have done for the confidence, for the mood of the football club, for the lift. Whereas now we've gone up in a hot air balloon after Thursday. We're just about to climb to the heights. A decent performance on Sunday, regardless of the results, could have taken us that bit further, and we could be going into West Ham in the clouds. But instead of that, the balloons had a spear right through it, and we're right back down to the bottom. And we're starting again. And we're going into an extremely difficult game away from home against a really, really good side. Palace are a decent side. Said this the other day. They're a decent side. They're not an amazing side. They're not the best team in the world. They're just a decent team. They're a good team. They work hard. They've got good players. That's it. They're not an amazing team. They're not an awful team. They're a decent, average, mid-table Premier League team. We we used to turn up against these decent, average Premier League teams and win, or at least be able to put a performance in that you could come away and go, yeah, there wasn't a golfing class there. Now there's a golfing class between us and the just good Premier League teams. Never mind the best teams. Never mind the teams that are winning the leagues or challenging for the Champions League. So there's a golfing class between us and the alright teams, which is just scary, and it shows how far we've dropped since this owner's come into the football club. And I said it 2 weeks ago, and I'll say it again. Farhad Moshiri has got to go. He's got to sell this football club. His time as owner of Everton is done. And I don't mean that literally before people say, well, he doesn't have to sell it because it's his football club and he's, you've got no right to say he has to sell it. I don't mean it literally. I mean it figuratively. His time at Everton is done. He will never be able to build that relationship with Evertonians up again. And as I said 2 weeks ago, regardless of the outcome of this season, be it relegation or not relegation, hopefully, fingers crossed, toes crossed, touch wood, all of that stuff, that it isn't relegation. But regardless, whether we're relegated or not, serious change needs to be made in this summer. And by that, I mean the owner needs to sell, the chairman needs to fuck off, the CEO needs to fuck off, the rest of the board can fuck off as well. 90% of this playing squad, including them spineless shithouses that were on that pitch on Sunday, they can fuck off. And if they don't, then we're just going to be in the same position next season. And next season we mightn't be as lucky. But you know what? This season we mightn't be as lucky. We're talking as if we're out the relegation battle. We're really, really not. We're still very much in a relegation battle. And our next game is against a team that are challenging for the Champions League away from home. Now, I said it 2 weeks ago. I'll say it again. We could face a Sunday League team away from home, and I think we'd struggle. Never mind a team that are challenging for the Champions League. So, look, again, for me, Sunday was just another example of Everton, wasn't it? It was, as I said, it was another episode in the Everton drama. That's exactly what we are. We're a soap. I'll never be able to be convinced that we're not a soap opera. What Thursday was a good episode, an happy episode. Things are going well. Everyone's smiling. Everyone's all right. But as you know, if you watch, I don't watch the soaps, but I still know that for every 50 episodes, one of them will be a happy one where people are all right. The other 49, there'll be train crashes, there'll be murders, there'll be court cases, there'll all be that stuff. That's what Everton is. Everton is just a soap opera. We get a decent day every now and then. We'll get a decent day every blue moon. And that's why I celebrated Thursday so much. Not because I thought we were out the relegation battle, not because I thought we were the best team in the world, but because I knew that was the day that things were good. And I knew that wouldn't last. And on Sunday, it was back to the typical same old shite. Circle of shite, as Peg calls it. And he's right, it is the circle of shite. But how long can we put up with this circle of shite before somebody makes a change? And by a change, I don't mean a new manager or a couple of new players. I mean the vast majority of these players moved on. I mean the board moved on. I mean the owners to sell the club. And, yeah, the manager was at fault on Sunday. It has to be said. The manager was at fault on Sunday. I'm not going to sit here and deny it. Frank Lampard, I think, got things wrong. I think he got the formation wrong. I think playing John Joe Kenny was a shocking decision. I think playing Seamus Coleman was a shocking decision. I've said it before, if you're playing a 3 or a 5 at the back, whatever that formation is, you've got to play Michalenko and Nathan Patterson for the sole reason is that they're young and they're quick. John Joe Kenny isn't quick or isn't young, and Seamus Coleman isn't either of the two either. I think his hands were drawn in midfield. I've seen some people say, well, he could have put Holgate or Godfrey in midfield. He could have put Holgate or Godfrey in midfield, you're right. But Ben Godfrey was so needed at centre-back because we've been desperate for him to return because of the ineptitude of Michael Keane and Mason Holgate, who are, by the way, the worst centre-back pairing the Premier League has ever seen. And you could put Mason Holgate in midfield, but as I said, he's absolutely shite. So, again, this old misconception of, I'll put Mason in midfield and he'll all of a sudden become fucking, Kante is a nonsense. He's just a shit footballer. He's not very good at football wherever he plays. Whether he plays in midfield, defence or up front, he's not very good. And as I said, we had nobody else. Alan was obviously suspended, wrongly suspended. Van der Beek was cup tied. Obviously Dele Alli was cup tied. I think Tyler and Yango was still out injured. So, the manager didn't really have many options to put in the centre of that midfield, which is why he went with the two of Doucouré and Gomez, and there was a lot of reliance on those two to perform, and the game, the situation was always going to be, if those two can't perform, then we're going to be in a bit of a desperate situation if the pair of them turn up and aren't very good. And that's exactly what it was. Andre Gomez I just don't know how he's a footballer. I don't know how he's still at Everton, to be honest with you. Again, he's just not very good, is he? I've said it before about Gomez, and I'll say it again. He doesn't bring anything. He doesn't bring anything to the game. He doesn't score goals. He doesn't create chances, and he's a shocking defender. He's got to be one of the most ineffective players in the Premier League. Now, he might look good on the ball. His passing might be okay at times. He might be all right at controlling it. But in the situation that we're in, Andre Gomez is a luxury player. And this is what pisses me off about our January transfer window. Dele Alli is a luxury player. And when you're in a relegation battle, the last thing you need is luxury players. You need effective players. You need players that mightn't look great, mightn't appear great, mightn't be technically great, but what their speciality is, what their forte is, they're extremely good at it. So if it's a midfielder, they're extremely good at covering the ground, breaking the play up, working hard, getting about, physicality, pace, power, all of that sort of stuff. If it's a striker, it doesn't matter how they look or whether they've got a great brand behind them or whether they are the next best thing, they can just score goals. Even if you're 36 years old, if you can get in there and score us, 7 to 10 goals, then you'll do. A bit like what Newcastle have done with Chris Wood. If you're a defender, doesn't matter whether you're the next best thing or whether you've got a six-pack or whether you just be a competent defender that can sit in there and do a job. We've got too many players that aren't up for a dogfight. Too many players that aren't up for a relegation battle. Too many players that are uncomfortable, that are not confident enough to be in this situation. Muhammad Ali said once that when he was asked about what separates him between him and the other heavyweights, he said something along the lines of, and I might botch this, and I know someone will correct me, but something along the lines of, if you made every heavyweight swim into the ocean, and basically, it was who could swim the furthest. He said, I would swim to those dark waters that nobody else would, and that shows his mentality that A, he's never going to lose, and B, he will go to deep waters to get what he needs and get what he wants. These Everton players wouldn't even make it off the fucking beach, mate. They wouldn't even make it past the fucking, the knee level, and they'd turn back. They'd dip a toe in and go, fucking hell, too cold that, I'm getting off. And that's not even a joke or that's an analogy or something to make people laugh. That's the truth. That shows the weakness of the mentality of these football players. 90% of them aren't up for a relegation battle. 90% of them have never been in a relegation battle, and they show that they're not up for one. They're not up for one whatsoever, and you know how worrying that is when that's exactly what we're in. And I know this was a cup game and it has no bearing on the league, I get that, but I'm going to talk about it as if it was a league game because, listen, it was a chance to get to Wembley. We lost to a better team. We lost to a team that were our own. We lost all of that. I get it, but the fact that we've lost a quarter final and an opportunity to get to Wembley should hurt me much more than it has. And the reality is, the reason for that is because whenever we've lost games like this in the past, whether it be quarterfinals or good opportunities to get to Wembley, we've usually been in a comfortable enough position in the Premier League, more often than not, to be able to sit here and say, we're safe and we're not going to get into Europe, so this is the only thing we've got. Sometimes it's been, right, well, we could still push for Europe. Sometimes it's been, well, we're safe. We're not really going to, we're not going to go down. We're not going to get into Europe, so we've got this cup. Now, this quarter-final almost felt like a bit of a burden for Everton. It was almost like on Sunday, I think the majority of Evertonians were sort of just like, when they got past these players are shit, gutless shithouses, and when I got past the numbness, it was just a bit like, well, yeah, let's just focus on the league now. And Frank Lampard said it in his post-game press conference. I think one of the first things he said, or his interview, one of the first things he said was, I'm not saying this was the message going into the game, but we can now focus on the league, which shows that deep down it probably was the message going into the game. Maybe not to the players, but in the mind of the manager. And that's sad because, as I've said before, and you'll be able to rewind various videos on the channel, and I probably said it in the season preview to this season, that Everton are simply not a club that are in a position to be able to throw away cup competitions. We're not a club that are in a position to be able to look at the Carabao Cup and say we'll play a weekend team here because we're not that arsed, or look at the FA Cup and say we'll play a weekend team here because we're not that arsed. Everton aren't in that position. Every single cup game, every single year, we have to look at it and think this is an opportunity to get some silverware. We haven't won a trophy for that long. We need to take every cup game, every cup competition as seriously as the next. And the reality of this situation and this season is that we're all sitting here having lost a quarter-final against a team that are a good team, are a tough team to beat away. But let's be honest, we've beaten them at Selhurst Park a number of times before. They're not an unbelievable team. Had we have been managed better by a previous manager and had these players have actually had something about them, we could have won that game on Sunday. And we should all be sitting here fuming, disappointed, upset about it, raging about it, not happy about the result, not happy about the performance. But instead, we're all sitting here sort of just saying, well, the performance and the result is to be expected now, because this is the type of performance and result that these players put in away from home every week. And the situation is that at least we can go and win. At least we can go and focus on the league now. But it really, really is do or die, isn't it? For the next, 4 or 5 weeks after this international break, the players have got a break now. Hopefully, touch wood, Yerry Mina is somewhat closer to becoming fitter. Come the end of the international break. And, we'll have Alan back after a couple of games, won't we? Which is still disappointing because we need them back. And yeah, I'm not going to sit here and say Dom, or because Dom played 45 minutes and didn't do anything. On Sunday, Richarlison played a good chunk and didn't do anything. Anthony Gordon worked hard but didn't do anything. Damari Gray didn't do anything, obviously, when he come on. So yeah, am I confident that we'll stay up? I'm absolutely not. I've had a couple of people say, yeah, but you got to look at the fixtures, Cam, and you look at, we've got Burnley away and we'll beat them. We've got Brentford at home, we'll beat them. Home games, okay. Do I think we'll beat Brentford at home? I'm not 100% confident, but I think we should beat Brentford at home. Burnley away, I don't see how any Evertonian, and listen, each to their own. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion. Everyone's entitled to their own thoughts. That's absolutely fine. I genuinely don't know how any Evertonian can sit there now and tell me with a straight face that they're absolutely confident that we'll beat Burnley away. Yes, it's Burnley. Yes, they're shite at football. But hello, we're Everton. We're shite at football and we're dreadful away from home. So, it's scary. It really, really is. It's scary. And you do have to question the desire and the fight and the commitment to these players. And do you know what? Allowing Meatball Molly to go into USM Finch Farm, not USM Finch Farm, sorry, it's not USM Finch Farm, is it now? Allowing Meatball Molly to go into Finch Farm or Goodison Park or the changing room to speak to these players mightn't necessarily be the worst thing in the world. I've seen some people say, what a stupid decision. She's not going to go in and start throwing fucking digs, is she? She's not stupid. She's not going to go in and start threatening players, is she? She's not going to go in and start doing things that, that would be ridiculous. She's not going to do that. But what she would do is go in and probably give an emotional speech and an emotional message about how much this football club means. And there might be a few harsh words. There might be a few, home suits that she might say to the manager or whatever. But to the players, I'm sure the message will just be very sensible, very calm, but very emotional and passionate message of you need to work hard for this football club. You need to understand how much it means. And maybe these players need... I mean, I've seen some people say, what else will that do? Well, what else are we going to fucking do? They showed the messages from fans before the Newcastle game. Apparently, we went out, we won that game, but it didn't matter 3 days later because they weren't thinking of those messages from fans when they were in the changing room at Palace, where they were thinking, fucking hell, we're going to shit ourselves again here. And they shit themselves again. So what else? What else can we do? Other than send somebody that's a clear, staunch Evertonian in who loves this football club as much as the rest of us and who has got an athletic background and has shown herself that when you dedicate yourself and when you give everything to something, you can get results out of it and you can be proud of yourself for it. And we know this Everton team, if they dedicate everything, will win many more games than if they don't. We know this Everton team, if they give 150% every time they're on that pitch, will pick up many more points than they will if they put in shithouse performances like that. Had we have given everything and dug deep on Sunday, we were 2-0 down with half an hour to go. Didn't go. I know it ended 4-0, but it didn't go 3 or 4-0 until about 15-20 minutes to go. We still had half an hour at 2-0. Had we have gotten a goal then the game could have changed. The complexity could have changed. Their heads could have dropped. They could have been a little bit fearful. The momentum comes to us and we go again. But we didn't, because at 2-0, we give up. We give up. And that's the heartbreaking thing about it, is you can see in the body language, you can see in the facial expressions, you can see in just the demeanour of the players that when we're 2-0 down in a quarter final with half an hour to go, which by the way is ample amount of time to get back in the game, they've given up already. they've given up already, and that's just heartbreaking, isn't it? It's absolutely heartbreaking. If you are enjoying, by the way, please hit that like button. It only takes a second. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. Would really appreciate it. We will be doing another live stream tomorrow. I'm not quite sure what the topic will be yet, but I'm off work tomorrow, so we'll be doing a live stream in the early afternoon. As I said, I will think of a topic prior to then, but it probably won't be anything exciting or happy, will it? Let's be honest, because that's not the mood around Everton at the moment. Wonderlust says she's not going to spin an elbow or mofo, tempted as she may be with our back line. With our injury record, that's 1 or 2 more out for the rest of the season and the next season. Remy says these shit bags, if they ain't working now, Meatball ain't going to make them. They are shit, need to go. I agree with that, but what I'm saying is, you know, you never know, do you? You never know what could change. You never know what could happen. But football isn't what it was like 20 years ago, 25 years ago, where a manager could go in a dressing room. Alex Ferguson, the way Alex Ferguson managed his teams, the way Alex Ferguson's attitude was with his players and with his staff and this, that, and the other, he wouldn't last 10 minutes in football in this day and age. Because back in them days, Roy Keane will tell you the stories, and Gary Neville, etc., Alex Ferguson acted in a way that was a pure winning mentality, and he done everything he could to get the most out of those players and for those players to win. If an Alex Ferguson went into a dressing room now and started screaming at players, or you've heard the old Herdzaya story and all of that, anything of even a similar liken to that, the players would just run off and go and tell their HR department or whoever, and they'd cry to them and they'd say, oh no, I don't want this. Because the players have got all the power, because they're the multi-millionaires. They're the people that know for the fact that whether they play well or don't play well, they're still getting paid the same amount. Whether they win or lose, they're still getting paid the same amount. And they know that managers can't come in and seat them like maybe they did 10, 15 years ago and shout and scream and call players idiots and shit and this, that and the other. Because they know, well, I'll just run to the HR department and say, you're seating me poorly and this, that and the other. Football has changed an awful lot in the last 10 or 15 minutes. An awful lot in the last 10 or 15 years. Sorry, not 10 or 15 minutes. 10 or 15 years, and that type of management wouldn't work. So maybe it wouldn't work for Molly to go in, but I don't think she wouldn't go in and start. I know Molly, she wouldn't go in and start throwing threats and stuff like that. It would be just an emotional conversation. It would be like them videos that the players were supposedly showing, but face to face, but also coming from somebody that knows what it's like to be in a high pressure situation and need to dig deep to get a result. You know, Molly isn't just me. If I went in and the players would look at me and go, well, what do you know about being in a high-pressure situation? Molly can go, I've been on the floor getting my head punched in. I've been in, you know, rear naked chokes or Kimura locks or anything like that, thinking, shit, I'm out of this. And I've had to pick myself up and I've had to go again. I've been getting punched in the face and I've had to walk through it to get the result. Molly knows what that's like, and you're right, you know, Basic says club won't let Meatball in because the people in charge of shit else do. Probably because the club know that 90% of that squad would start crying, run to HR and say, oh no, I don't like that, she's come in and shouted at us. Again, that's the mentality of football. I don't give a fuck when anybody says there is a subconscious mentality in modern day footballers that is, what's the point of me? It's just a job. It's just a job. And that is the subconscious mentality in most footballers. And I think most of these players at Everton is it's just a job. And whilst it is just a job, and whilst I understand that they have to have a personal life and it's difficult and they're human beings, I get all of that. But when you're a winner, when you're a leader, when you're determined to get out of it, you need to have more of it. It's more than just a job. It's a lifestyle. It's a lifestyle for these Evertonians, these fans, these people that love the football club. And whilst these players can come out all they like and say, we know what it means, we care, this, that, and the other, it's all fucking bollocks. It's all media nonsense. That's all it is. Anyway, let's talk briefly about the game, because I'm actually going to have to finish up very shortly because I'm going to play football myself. I'm on this bit of a fitness grind at the moment of trying to get myself in really, really good shape come the summer to try and sort my physical health out and my mental health, so you'll have to bear with me. This one will be a little bit shorter than it usually is, but maybe people are like that. Maybe people don't like me sitting here ranting for an hour about Everton. But yeah, game started off, as I said, first 10 or 15 minutes, we were in relative control. We were moving the ball well. We were getting at them. We weren't creating an awful lot of opportunities. We weren't particularly threatening them in terms of having 4, 5, 6 shots on target. We had one opportunity. I think Michael Keane might have been after the first goal. Actually, Michael Keane had a shot, and Ben Goffrey was at the back post, and it just went past them. But yeah, we were on top. We were working. We were battling. We were out the traps quick. We looked like a team that had taken confidence from the result on Thursday. We looked like a team that were wanting to win. We're wanting to battle. We're wanting to show that fight. We're wanting to show that desire. We're wanting to show that commitment. And, you know, as I said, it was a really, really impressive first 10, 15 minutes. And it was always going to be, right, okay, we had this against Spurs. We've had this on a number of occasions previously. Can we keep this up? If we go a goal down, can the players think, do you know what, fuck it, we've been brilliant here for 15 minutes, 20 minutes here, pick ourselves up, go again? Or can they just avoid conceding a goal and just keep pushing? But as always, as I said before, it's like those 10, 15 minutes end. I think I said this after Spurs. Those 10, 15 minutes end, the players are looking, thinking, well, we haven't scored or we haven't created many chances. So it's almost like they then go, oh, fuck it, can't be arsed now. Just tried that for 20 minutes and it didn't work. Instead of going, do you know what? Let's persist with it. Let's do this for the rest of the game and see what happens. They just go, well, it didn't work after 20 minutes, so we throw it out the window. Balls get forward, take a corner. It looks like it's looping in. Jordan Pickford gets it out. They take another corner. It's 1-0. As I said, carbon copy of Conor Cody's goal, other than this one coming from a corner and that one coming from a standing cross. Another ball into the box, another cross, another goal conceded. I can't express to you how desperate we are for Yerry Mina to come back into this team. I really, really can't. Yerry Mina makes Michael Keane and Mason Aldgate look like children. He really, really does. He makes them look like absolute children. And again, this is another thing that pisses me off and worries me about this Everton team and about people going, we'll be alright, we won't go down. We're conceding the same goals every week. Any team that wants to, you know, do any research on how to score goals against Everton doesn't have to look very far. Balls into the box and exploit the defence, exploit the two centre-halves. That's all it is. Exploit their lack of concentration, exploit their ability, exploit their lack of desire and energy, but also balls into the box. If you can throw crosses into Everton, you will score goals, because we're that bad at defending them. And that's what pisses me off so much. It's not that we're conceding a silly amount of goals. It's that we're conceding the same fucking goals. It's the same mistakes. What's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. And that is the definition of fucking Everton Football Club as well. Which in turn means that Everton Football Club is the definition of fucking insanity. And I'm going fucking insane supporting this football club. We concede the first goal. And you could sort of tell from that point that Edwards dropping, and again, you can call me negative, you can call me pessimistic, you can call me what you want. As soon as that first goal went in, I thought, we're out of this now. We're out of it. Not because it was impossible to get back into it, but because away from home, these players don't know what it means to put a shift in. They don't know what it means to work hard. They don't know what it means to battle. They don't know what it means to show that desire, that commitment. They just don't understand it. At home, yeah, if we go a goal down, you can sit there and go, do you know what? Maybe we'll get back into this. Maybe we'll show a bit of fight. Away from home, there's none of that. And that's exactly what it was. Not long after, we concede another goal. Far too easy for Palace to play it down the left-hand side. Ball comes in. We nearly concede the second just before that, actually, with Zaha, where he gets onto it and shoots wide, and Michael Keane gets over. But again, another really, really, another what we would call warning sign. Oh, look at that. They've gotten down the right-hand side. They've put a ball in the box, and their attacker has gotten to it first. That's a warning. Don't let that happen again. 5 minutes later, ball comes down the left-hand side. Too easy to get the cross in, and Mateta comes onto it, walks onto it, completely walks onto it, and buries it in the back of the net. Should Jordan Pickford do better? Maybe, but it's dreadful defending by Mason Aldgate. It's awful by the fullbacks. Our fullbacks are fucking wank, by the way. Absolutely wank. I'm not having that. Nathan Patterson and Mikalenko aren't as good as John Joe Kenny and Seamus Coleman. I don't think, and I don't care how long he's been here or how much he loves the football club or how much dedication he's had. I don't think Seamus Coleman has ever stopped the cross coming into the box. I don't think he's ever stopped the cross coming into the box. Every time a winger's got the ball, and it's not even a pace thing, because sometimes he can keep up with them, but he just doesn't stop the cross. The cross comes in every single time. And again, it come in the other day. Mateta's on the end of it, and it's 2-0. From that point on, you're sort of thinking, well, we're thinking as Evertonians, aren't we? Game over. We're not getting back into this. This is done now. But it steadied itself then, and whilst Palace were getting forward and creating more chances and having more opportunities, the game sort of steadied itself out, and we had effectively, half an hour, 40 minutes to go and get a winner. To go and get back in the game. We brought Dominic Calvert-Lewin on at half-time. Obviously, prior to that, Andros Townsend went off with what looked like a really, really terrible injury at the time. We now know that through Everton's official website. Everton tweeted out earlier today. Bear with me 2 seconds so I can get the full article up. Everton had tweeted out that Andros Townsend will miss the rest of the season after suffering an ACL injury after the recent defeat against Crystal Palace. So there you go, Andros Townsend, who is our top goal scorer this season, who has been, again, won games for us with his goals, with his quality, and I don't think he's been particularly great recently. Don't get me wrong, I'll say that, and I know obviously he hasn't started a lot of games recently, but he was actually doing well in this game. He was working hard, he was moving the ball around, his desire was there, his commitment. He was a part of that opening 10 or 15 minutes where we looked really, really strong, which we looked really, really positive. And then when he went off and Demarai Gray come on, it just changed. And that, I think, partly is because I don't think Demarai Gray is anywhere near the same type of player as Andros Townsend. I think Andros Townsend is more work rate and getting to the ball and winning the ball, and Demarai Gray is more taking players on and trying to create chances. But we dropped from that point on. As soon as Andros Townsend went off, it just sort of killed the flow. And I think that was maybe the time where these players just sort of went, well, we were working hard there, we were battling, we were winning, and we've lost Townsend, so we'll give up. And that's just heartbreaking, isn't it? It's absolutely heartbreaking. But yeah, Townsend goes off, we go 2-0 down, and as I said, we've got a good 20, 25, 30 minutes to get back in the game, and they don't. The heads have dropped, there's no desire, they're walking towards the ball, there's no running, there's no commitment, there's no energy, there's just nothing there. There's absolutely nothing there. We can see the third goal, which is just laughable. It's just absolutely laughable. Ball, the camera's even turned away. And it's hit the bar, and then Zaha stood on his own. Zaha knows about as much about it as I did. But again, the defenders are standing around watching, but that's the warning sign. Right, okay, next time there's a Crystal Palace attacking in the box, don't let him be free. 5 minutes later, they have another shot, which was handball again, by the way. The second one was handball as well. Again, VAR, absolute disgrace. Absolute disgrace. I might talk about that tomorrow. Completely says that a handball where Zaha does that isn't intentional. We know it's corrupt, we know it's damn. But again, the reason I'm not talking about VAR is because I don't think we lost because of VAR. Maybe we'd have had, that wouldn't have counted and whatever, but would we have realistically got back in that game? No, Palace would have just found another way to score. Fourth goal, gets a shot off. Jordan Pickford saves it this time, really good save. And once again, who stood on their own? Will Hughes, and just puts it into the back of the net. And it's 4-0. And it's game, set, and match from that point. And again, it's another embarrassing, disgraceful, disgusting Everton performance. And yeah, as I said, from 2-0 down in a game that we could have really give everything at, thrown everything at it. Frank Lampard could have thrown everything at it with the substitutions. He didn't. The players could have thrown everything at it. He didn't. He just gave up. They threw the towel in. They ran away. And they couldn't be arsed with the fight, and they couldn't be arsed with the desire. And that, for me, is just... That is inexcusable. Absolutely inexcusable. And these shithouses have again gone out and let us down once again. And yeah, where do we go from here? Well, we go to West Ham in a couple of weeks after the international break. We haven't got to watch Everton now for over a week, which is great, fantastic. I'm fucking made up with that, brilliant stuff. But then we go to West Ham, which will be another extremely difficult game, and we'll just have to hope that we can get something out of that one, won't we? But another defeat, out the FA Cup. And yeah, now to focus on the league, and it's simple now. The task is stay in the Premier League, and then we make drastic change to the whole football club in the summer. But first and foremost, and most importantly, stay in the Premier League. Anyway, look, we are going to finish it there. Then I apologise that I haven't got involved with as many live comments as I originally wanted to. Unfortunately, I've got a dart to go to football. We will be back live tomorrow. I'm either going to talk about Jordan Pickford or the management of this football club, because I think Jordan Pickford needs speaking about, because I've seen a couple of articles today saying that, he lets us down, and I think Stephen Warnock, who's an absolute fucking knobhead, come out and said something, and I just want to defend him because Jordan Pickford's done absolutely nothing wrong. But yeah, we are going to finish it there. Then if you have enjoyed this one, please hit that like button. It does only take a second. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. Big thanks to everybody in the live comments. Really appreciate it. If you want to see a YouTube video, don't forget to leave your thoughts down below. Another defeat. Another shithouse performance. Will we ever change? Probably not. But there you go. We'll be back tomorrow. Join us for that one. Big thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon on the Mighty Blues.